So welcome back to the only daytime courtroom drama that matters, Decoy Court, and today we're reading stories from r/Malicious Compliance, because what better revenge is there other than giving someone exactly what they're asking for? So today's featured post is, want me to call the cops? Alrighty. So as always, we're going to read the stories in their entirety, read over some of those top comments and the controversial comments and your comments down below to get that Decoy Court final verdict. But let's go ahead and read this post right now. OP writes, obligatory mobile post. Sorry for any formatting issues. Alrighty then. So a bit of a backstory on yours truly. I've been working bar security, aka a bouncer, at the same bar for about 3 years. If you ever want to know what it's like to be a bouncer, think daycare, but at night. And instead of small children, it's adults who revert to children when intoxicated. Or even when they're not intoxicated. Anywho, this night is pretty much like any other night. There's a popular local band playing, so we've got a decent crowd going. The team is keeping their eyes open for anyone that's passed out, being belligerent, doing things they shouldn't be, and the works. I'm standing by the door to the bar area of the building. The way this place works is it's basically cut in half, with one half being a pool hall and the other being a bar/entertainment area separated by a wall with a door on either end. I can stand by this door a lot because I can easily keep track of both rooms at the same time without needing to really walk around the place. So there's this gentleman sitting near the door where I'm at, and there's a couple sitting at the bar across the way. The female is well known for acting out when she's drunk. From what we could see on the cameras inside, she walks on over to the gentleman by the door and starts trying to flirt with him. This guy has come into the bar for years and has never raised a hand to anyone for any reason. He's a professionally trained boxer, doesn't drink, and doesn't generally close out the bars. He rejects her advances and she becomes noticeably upset. She proceeds to run over to her man and tell him that this guy has disrespected her and called her names. The gentleman ushers her man over and kindly asks him to make this woman leave him alone. Before the conversation starts, though, the husband grabs the guy by the collar and starts driving him towards the wall. Well, chaos ensues as they don't realize that he came with 20 of his friends. He throws a couple of jabs at the husband and the woman because she decided she wanted in on this brawl. Well, the dude punches her so hard he literally folds her bottom row of teeth back into her mouth. Oh my god. This all happens in the span of about 10 seconds, so the security team jumps in and gets everyone separated. The husband and wife get taken outside, but we haven't called the cops because generally that's a last resort. So we're outside. The lady is bleeding from her mouth and the husband is visibly angry. She keeps asking me to call the cops, but I keep on telling her that it's a bad idea considering the husband put his hands on the guy first, but she's not having it. So I call the police. I can't describe how difficult it was not to laugh at this lady's face as she witnessed the cops put her husband in handcuffs, not the guy who punched her. She said something that I'll never forget and I wish I had it on recording. This is why we don't call the effing cops. I very nonchalantly reminded her that it was her idea to call the police in the first place. Didn't see them again until about a year later. She had the whole bottom row of her teeth pretty much fixed and hasn't changed in the slightest. What a night. Edit. Hey, thanks for my first ever award. I appreciate it. Edit number 2. When I said the boxer doesn't drink, I meant he doesn't drink to the point of passing out or throwing up. He'll have a couple beers here and there, and that's it. My perception is the drinker has expanded quite a bit when I started seeing just how much someone will pour down their throat in the span of a couple hours. So taking the case over to Decoy Court is malicious compliance is exactly what he says it is. It's a situation where someone asks you to do something and you're like, are you sure you want that? And they indignantly stamp their feet and say, of course it is. They get them in trouble when they don't realize that they were the aggressor in the fight, so you give them exactly what it was. Kind of sad that, you know, she had to learn her lesson in such a permanent way. The husband had to get arrested for something that the wife had done, and the other guy probably had to go through a whole bunch of stuff because most people see these fights and like, oh my god, cool, get it on camera, make sure you do all this thing and all let's get famous on World Star and show our videos to our friends of this exciting thing that happened last night. For most people actually involved in the fight, you know, even if you deck somebody pretty well, there's lots of like, you know, damage you can do to your hands, and there's other things that can occur with, like, you know, getting injuries. When he's a professional boxer, does he have a fight coming up? Will he lose sponsors? That's a whole thing. So like, there's no winners in this situation over here. Maybe OP for having a fun story to tell, but you know, there's everybody wanted to avoid this, and the idea of the whole thing where like being a bouncer at a bar is like being at a daycare with adults. That's very, very true. Like, if knowing it firsthand, people just for whatever reason don't know how to act when they have too many drinks in their system. But you know, the Decoy defense of this is, you know, they said the boxer's very well mannered, giving everybody their fair shake. Like, it's never a reason to say someone said something mean to me, now I'm going to physically attack them. That's not okay, but maybe the guy legitimately did say something very horrendous to her, and she was like, wow, that guy really, like, you know, brought up the fact that, like, you know, I lost my father last week, and that I look like a a hamster or something that like really offended her on a very core level. So the husband had to step in, and this whole thing got out of hand real quick, and it might have been a little bit the boxer's fault. It's hard to say, but like, you know, as always, let's go ahead and go to the recess for Decoy Court. Let me know what story number 1, what you would have done in the situation. Would you have given them malicious compliance? Would you have taken it further than it needed to be? Or is it a bad situation that he should have just walked away from, like, you know what, I'm going on my break right now. You guys have fun with this. I don't want anything to do with this. So let me know your thoughts down below, but let's go over and shoot over to that top comment right now, which is, there's always one idiot who can't be told. It almost looks like there's something else to the end of that, but okay. The reply is, I swear this job has opened my eyes so much the lengths people will go to just to be right, even when they're proven wrong. And that's that weird self-righteousness that this whole generation has been plagued with, where, oh my god, I can't believe you let me rear-end your car with my car. Why were you stopped at a stoplight when I would hit you in the back of the car? Didn't you know that I was driving too fast? That's where we're at right now. And the reply is, pride, man, it'll get you every time. And it is very true. People are just very proud of themselves. They haven't been told they're wrong enough in life, and now they get them in these situations. The next reply was, wow, and OP came back to say, yeah, I felt really bad for him because she lied to him about the whole thing just to set him off, which is, maybe that was just part of their thing. Maybe that's just their, the way they get themselves going during their anniversary night. They like the whole thrill, the rush of the fight, and it just kind of got blown out of proportion. They picked the wrong guy to try to have a thing where the guy wasn't going to actually hurt him, but he just wanted to do the song and dance, running up to the guy, grab his collar and say, you listen here, sonny, you stay away from my wife, okay? And then, like, you know, the wife swoons and says, oh my god, husband, let's go home. And then they go home, and, like, you know, they had their excitement for the night, but then it went the entirely wrong way. Who knows? The next top reply was, as an old ex-bouncer, I can relate to this story. The amount of punters who insisted that the police are called and then they end up being arrested when they don't let the police do their job, as well as the ones who call the police themselves because in their drunk head they're totally innocent. It was hard to keep them from smiling. It's hard to keep from smiling when the police were asked to do the camera footage and they have the sports commentary in my head. Cotton, average Joes will be forfeiting the championship match. Pepper, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. I think that's the reference to dodgeball. They say bars should really post videos publicly and put on a commentary like that. And then they say maybe do something along the gas station encounters YouTube channel. Don't just show the people, actually humiliate them. And I've seen that gas station encounters channel. I don't know what state that's in, but I feel like a lot of those places, they must be breaking a rule. At least in California, you can't do that. But I mean, maybe they're in, like, I don't know what state that's more liberal with their rules on what camera footage you can release. So that's story number 1. Let's go ahead and shoot over to the second story of malicious compliance, which is when shipping costs more than the item itself. So OP writes, saw another post that was kind of similar to this, figured I'd share my story too. In 2019, my wife and I welcomed our first child into the world, and as a baby shower gift, my father, who lives on the other side of the country, wanted to buy us a crib. Obviously, the easiest way to do this was to order from Amazon, so that's what he did. Total came out to be something like $650 plus free shipping. Now, my wife and I were the ones to select the crib we wanted, and my father had no issue with the price. My dad orders it from his account, ships to my address, so the crib shows up and they drop it at the base of our driveway. Now we have about 15 steps up to our front door. The box is heavy, probably handy of 500 pounds, and it's just me and my pregnant wife. But we get it in and we spend the day building it and go on with our lives. But as ads do what ads do, my phone was bombarded with ads for cribs, including the one my father just bought us less than 2 weeks ago, and surprise, surprise, it's gone on sale for $430. So I contact Amazon and let them know what's going on and ask if they have a 30-day price guarantee. I figured there would be no reason to tell my dad he could have saved $220 if he wasn't able to get my money back. Now, because it was over $200, they couldn't just do a refund, but said we could return the crib and order a new one. Unfortunately, we've already built the crib and can't return it. So they told us, order a new one. When that crib comes in, return the old one and get the refund. I made sure to ask about the return shipping, and they said it would be covered as the item has free shipping. I saved the transcript of our conversation. So that's what we start to do. I contact my dad, he puts a new order in, and we wait for the box to arrive. Similar situation. Heavy box left at the edge of my driveway, but this time the weather was pretty crappy and the box got ruined. I took pictures of it sitting at the curb and moved it to the side. I let my dad know and he contacts Amazon so we can get an email providing the return address and instructions on how to return it, including the blank, a fixed postage here spot on the label. Back to talking to Amazon support, they're having a very sorry and look into it. Apparently shipping on this crib is like $350. I'm sitting there with 2 cribs and proof that Amazon said they'll cover the return shipping, so it's like $1,050 in shipping. All for what amounts to be a $430 crib. So they told us to keep it and refunded the original purchase of $650. My sister lived a few hours from me. Her and her husband are looking at starting to try for kids, so she got herself a crib as a baby shower gift from my dad too. So, taking the case over to Decoy Court, because I know that with this situation, this wasn't so much malicious compliance as it was just like, you know, Amazon, this multi-billion-dollar company. Jeff Bezos is the richest person in all of history, so they're going to do things where if it inconveniences them too much, they're going to let you have a bonus from it, or they just like take something for free because it's too much work on their end. Is this them gaming the system? No, because I know that people do abuse return policies in this situation. Like, I know a very popular and a very highly recommended tire company from America that deals with tires. I really recommend them. It's not paid sponsorship, but they do this thing where if you buy their tire and get their insurance, if something happens to the tire, regardless of what it is, it's not general wear and tear. It's like you get a nail in it or something, they will replace your tire for free. It's like $15. It's a really good deal. Last time I was there, it's really worth it. But some people take advantage of it where they take the tire tread gets worn down, they're drifting or they're racing or whatever, so they just jam a nail in the tire and they say, oh, look, you guys will replace the tire, right? And it's just like, that's a messed up thing. That's like the malicious compliance thing, that they're only going to repair your tire if there's a nail in it, so they just abuse the situation. I don't like that at all, but this right here just seems like to be an innocent thing where they said, hey, you could have just given us the $220 off, but now you're giving us 2 free cribs. Who's laughing now type of situation. I don't think that's a bad idea, but I would guess to say that the decoy defense, like why they would be the antagonist in this situation, is if they purposely ordered the crib and left it out. Like, they got the crib, they could have lugged it inside, but they're like, you know what? It's about to rain right now. I bet you we can get that crib for free if we just let there be a slight drizzle on the box. And then after a slight drizzle was happening, there's water in the cement. They just went out there with a bucket of water, poured it over the top, and said, hey, Amazon, come pick up this $1,050 shipping item because we want a free crib. And they knew how to game the system. But as always, we'll take a brief recess. Let me know down there in the comment section below what you think in the Decoy Koi pond for story number 2. Is this a bad move to try to get a free crib, or is this just someone gaming the system because it deserved to be gamed? But let's go ahead and shoot over that top comment right now, which is, I ordered an A3 plus size guillotine on Amazon. It was shipping from Poland or somewhere to Scotland, not fulfilled by Amazon. I waited ages for it and it didn't arrive. Went on a holiday a couple weeks and came home to 2 large heavy boxes, 30 kilograms each, in the hallway outside our door. Thought maybe for some reason the thing came in 2 boxes. Ordered 1. Nope, complete guillotine. So I contacted the seller and I told them I received 2. They told me to keep the extra one. Sold it for half when I paid for the first one, which is a cool thing. Like, you know, as long as they try to do the right thing, where they offered to send it back. They said, you know what, return shipping is going to be too much of a hassle. Give it to you for free. So that's everybody wins there. Next reply was, wow, how do these places stay in business? These stories are a bit too frequent to make me wonder. It can't be that hard to run a business that loses money. I can do that. How do I get that set up? And that's the idea, is Amazon can lose money on most things and still make an overall profit because there is just so much business. The volume is so high. The idea is, over at Best Buy, people didn't realize in the beginning, like, they would sell CDs and they would sell video games and, like, you know, all the small accessories. From what my understanding was, they would lose money on all that, but make money on a refrigerator, a large screen TV, a PlayStation. Like, the big appliances is what they make money on. So they don't mind losing money on replacing a video game that gets damaged or a CD that didn't have the booklet or something. Like, that's kind of how it goes. Like, people that don't understand business is you take losses on things to bring people, to drive foot traffic, get people inside your store, and then you make money on big box stuff. The next top reply is, had a similar issue with Amazon's safe that weighed about 75 pounds. The key to use the safe in an electronic opener was lost. So they were going to send a pickup truck for the first safe and send a replacement because they have no way to duplicate keys from whoever they buy safes from. After that, they decided it was too much difficulty to pick up, so the new safe shows up and keep the old one, which works. Just possible that if the battery from the keypad dies, I have to drill into it to unlock. So, I mean, there's lots of stories of that where it's just like, more trouble than it's worth. Don't need to be right. Need to have that self-righteousness of like, they might be taking advantage of us to steal a second safe. Make sure we grab the other one back. It's like, you know what? Don't hurt the company to try to be right in a situation. So it's understandable. So we'll go ahead and go to the third and final story of the day, which is, got told to F off by my assignment group. So that's exactly what I did. So it's going to be a longer story. OP writes, I'm on phone, so please ignore the formatting issues. I do a computer science degree at university. We had a group work project which is set up to be in 2 stages. Part A involved making an application and writing a report about it in a 50-50 split. Part B, we got feedback from Part A and had to improve upon it. In total, it was 100% of a module. It is also important to note that there is a group contribution report, a GCR, where each student puts in how much they think each student has done. I was in a randomly selected group with 4 others. We each picked parts of the work that we wanted to do. I was apparently the group's most confident coder, so assigned myself to do about half the code and finish up my work in about the first 3 weeks and work on other projects that I have for other modules. Then soon after I finished my work, the others asked if I can do their parts of the code too. I initially protest as I have other coursework due, but eventually I say fine, but it's so long as it's noted in the GCR they all agree. I sweat it out over the next 3 weeks or so alongside my other coursework. I contacted my module organizer explaining that I had done half the work. They suggested if people weren't pulling their weight to leave their group, taking my code with me and do the report. That would mean that I would need to work flat out to produce the report and was probably going to mess it up. I didn't want that. The deadline was in about a week, so I CBA. Then I got asked to do some report work too, because they didn't understand how the code worked. By this point, I felt pretty used by them. Didn't really mind so as long as I got the marks. All in all, it worked out that I had done the workload of 3 people. There were talks amongst the others of all the writing that each contributed 20% of the workload to make us look better as a team. I flatly refused. They exploded calling me every name under the sun, swearing at me, telling me to F off. I sent off to my GCR with it 60 for me and 10 for each of the rest. I thought that was that. My module organizer then emailed me asking if I had any proof of this, as they all put me at 0% and themselves at 25%. I'd worked my butt off on this project, putting in 150 plus hours on the code and another 50% on the diagrams and report, all while attending lectures 20 hours a week, over 7 weeks, which if you do the maths averages an extra 4 hours a day, on top of all my other assignments and commitments, etc. There was no way I was letting this slide. I emailed him back, linking him the GitHub that I used to share the code with the team. GitHub is a source control that shows who made changes to the code, and showed him that all the commits version of the code were done by me, proving that I did all of it. And thankfully we did the whole report on Google Drive so I could use a history of that document and send him screenshots of all the alterations made by me, proving that I wrote about 20% of the report also. He added it all up and made a special exception for my group, saying he would give me most credit for the work. I think I then ended up with a 65 and they all got an 11 for the coursework part A, and they would need 69% to even pass the module. So it turned out I effed up a bit on the code and only getting about 50% of the marks with like a massive issue in it. Dumb me for anyone interested. I make a MVC structure correctly. But my report sections were near perfect. Spelling mistakes, a common thing to do, and formatting, etc. There were a few glaring mistakes on the report that they had written, but other than that, not bad. When they found out their marks, they started calling me up and emailing me and messaging me almost for about 3 hours. I was happily out at the time and didn't have my phone with me, so didn't respond. My module organizer sent me an email explaining that they had lied and had proof about it, so corrected the marks accordingly. So when I got back to my phone, I screenshot all the messages that sent and recorded all the voicemails, including the ones that were sent previously, including multiple occasions where everyone in the group told me to F off. And F off I did. I sent all these voicemails and screenshots to my module organizer requesting that I leave my group, and understanding that it is more work for me, but I'd rather not deal with that. He agreed and also escalated the messages to someone higher up. At this point, I quit the group, and decided to work on Part B myself, taking all of my code with me, removing their access to all of it. I, of course, asked my module organizer first, and they said it was fine as it was my work and it was no longer the group that others wouldn't submit it. I fixed the error in the code in about 2 weeks and did the whole report from scratch, almost, and added a load about the fix taking me about 7 weeks. I then get messages from the group to please come back. We really need your kind of stuff on the end few days of the assignment. They even offered to pay me. I screenshot it and sent it to the module organizer, just to let them know what is happening and just ignore them. I ended up submitting 2 weeks early for the deadline and got 100% on the section 2, which is basically unheard of at the university, especially by yourself for group work. Later that day, I get an email for plagiarism and the collusion officer, not someone you ever want to get an email from. Basically saying I'm summoned to a hearing as an external body looked into both my group, me, myself, and I, and my old group's coursework, and they thought it was very similar. I get the whole project that my group handed in and my own back as evidence so I can look at it and prepare my answer to their questions. I email my module organizer and ask if he supports me in this because basically they punish all of you or one group, never nobody. He says he supports me in this. Perfect. I prepared for this meeting by going through all the hundreds of commits that I've made while they had access to find that the one most similar to it. I find a perfect match, 0 differences, not even a single character through thousands of lines of codes. So I turn up to this meeting, there's a VP of computing there, a guy who could basically do whatever the heck he wants to us. An old group, when asked to present their answer as to why this has happened, go on about how they did all of it by themselves, blah blah blah. You get the point. This goes on for about 10 minutes. Then I'm asked to present my argument. I ask if I can share my screen. VP says, yeah, okay, puzzled. So I share it. Show all the screenshots I took as some of the people in the meeting weren't aware that we knew each other, including them basically begging for me to come back and offering me money to. As if this wasn't enough to convince them, I showed me downloading a fresh version of what they submitted and a fresh version of one of the commits on GitHub and running it through the trusted comparison software. I narrated this, what I was doing, just to be clear. Took a while, but came up as I knew there would be 0 differences. Everyone was stunned. One of the group members uttered, but, ... and I just laughed, and quickly asked to hang up as I was no longer involved. Turned out they had cloned one of my commits and still had a copy on the laptop when I blocked their access, not being able to fix it, so I just submitted it and hoped for the best. One of my friends, who was friends with one of the people from my old group, asked what grade they got and said they failed the whole module and got a 0 for the second section, giving them just a 5.5% overall of the module. You need 40% to pass. And would have retaken it over the summer, costing them and everyone in my old group their placement year jobs. After all who wants someone who failed the module so badly, who was intellectually dishonest working for them. This meant that they all lost out being paid $20K each for the year's work, which goes a long way for a university student, while I happily got mine. Too long didn't read, they tried to screw me over, told me to F off, all while taking my work and causing them to fail the class. So there's lots of updates, but I mean, and probably the longest story I've ever covered in DecoyNoise is a situation where in Decoy Court, you know, don't start none, won't be none. It seems like they kind of got what they deserved. He gave them several instances on how to, you know, rectify the situation, offered to help them. But once they got a little bit too uppity with him, saying, you know, you need to be working harder, you don't screw us over, he ended up getting the last laugh. And also they tried to not only cuss him out via text message and email and voicemail, they tried to get him in trouble in school. So they got what it was coming to him. It hurt them financially. But I mean, it's kind of hard to say that they didn't deserve it. I guess the decoy defense in this situation would be a situation where had OP just was more technically savvy than them and was able to go through and revise GitHub on, like, you know, the programming side and kind of frame them by adding extra commits with extra coding that included their code and their program. I'm trying to speak on something I have a loose understanding of, but the idea is maybe he set them up, maybe he didn't. That's just kind of decoy defense making something up. But I mean, take a brief recess right now. Let me know what you think about the longest story about coding that was very much going over my head. Let me know down in the comment section, but let's go ahead and go to the top comment, which is, remember kids, save the evidence. And then the next reply was, cover your butt. Always remember that if it has saved me, it can save you from idiotic group members. GitHub and Google Drive, as OP mentioned, is very good for documentation. So this video is going way too long right now. So that's kind of my spiel as to this story over here. Kind of interesting the way group projects when we were kids could be very easily like flubbed on that he said, she said, but with voicemails, text messages, GitHub, commit history, draft history, and Google, like, you're very easily, you know, proven to be the antagonist in these situations. So that's my episode for today. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing down below if you like my take to this, with my face on it, with my opinions on it, Decoy Court, Decoy Defense, whatever it may be. Let me know that you like the content that I'm producing. Subscribe down below. Join the Decoy Court pond as well by putting on the notifications. But if you don't want to do all that, maybe just like this video, maybe share the video or the channel overall. But if nothing else, just go ahead and put this on autoplay and watch the next episode of DecoyNoise coming up next.